We are in the fourth industrial revolution, a time marked by the interconnection of hyper-instrumented physical, biological, and digital worlds. As these worlds integrate, intelligent ecosystems form and give rise to Big Bang disruptions, transforming entire systems. The accompanying pace of technological development will exert profound changes in the way people live and work, impacting all disciplines, economies, and industries, including how, what, why, and where individuals produce and deliver their products and their services. These interconnected worlds are immersed with high-performance sensors built with edge AI, enabling real-time decisioning and giving rise to this new distributed thinking. Virtual assistants are imbued with human perception capabilities, delivering personalized experiences that span multiple worlds. And all roads lead through cybersecurity. We have our work cut out for us. Attackers are better than us at adapting to, leveraging, and exploiting disruption. We operate in a world bound by rules, and theirs are limited by their own creativity. Our ability to predict is more critical than ever, and to deeply understand the forecasts and trends that will mold and shape the world of tomorrow. As cybersecurity professionals, we often do not entirely give ourselves permission to muse or daydream or imagine how near and long-term technology trends culminate. We don't think like world builders. We don't think in universes. And this has ultimately resulted in this disjointed, unnatural approach to security design, from everything from the worker's user experience to these slow and slow debt and friction-laden enterprise security architectures. Designing for cybersecurity of the future requires a willingness to explore how technology trends will manifest in a future world, and defining the iterative steps necessary to both operate in a world comprised of intelligent ecosystems and ultimately how to protect and defend it. Welcome to today's lecture, Cybersecurity in the Intelligent Ecosystem, sponsored by Blacks in Cybersecurity Lightning Talks. In today's lecture, we will discuss what comprises an intelligent ecosystem, a few of the critical technology trends that contribute towards its creation, and the areas of cybersecurity we see most impacted by these trends. Little bit about me. My name is Jenai Marinkovic, and I'm a Chief Information Security and Technology Officer, and I've been in the field for about 20 years. I've worked in various industries, including media and entertainment, gaming, live sports, biomed, manufacturing, pharmaceuticals, and digital design agencies. I work with Tyro Security as their virtual CISO and CTO. And I'm on the technical advisory board for the award-winning design agency Beyond. And I am chairman of the technology advisory board for a new startup called AuthenticKid. My security expertise spans security architecture, engineering, defense, forensics, even had the opportunity to work on and invent a cyber defense framework for large-scale breaches based on American football. I've worked for large enterprise brands, including DirecTV, Electronic Arts, Beckman Coulter, and international investigations firms such as Kroll. There's this wonderful quote from Accenture, and it says, "In the future, people don't just want more technology in our products and our services. We want more technology that is human." Accenture produces a series of regular forecasts on emergent technology trends, and they discuss this hyper-personalization of and humanization of technology. It's kind of like what Steve Jobs said at a D5 conference in 2007. He said, "I just want Star Trek. Give me Star Trek. Just give me Star Trek." And it's because the technology experiences in Star Trek are natural and invisible or transparent. They're built into the fabric of the system. And ultimately, the trajectory for many of these technologies is to become more humanized. Ecosystems that sense, that feel, systems that think, intelligent ecosystems. systems that passively recognize, authenticate, and make decisions for you. And there's some interesting cybersecurity implications that we'll dive into a little bit later in this lecture. But to engage in predicting the future, we need to take a short trip through a series of technological eras. And it is at this cross-section that we'll see these thinking systems rise. So we're going to take a little trip down memory lane, and we're going to talk about the evolution of the fourth industrial revolution and the evolution to the third wave of AI. The fourth industrial revolution, it's a fusion of everything from artificial intelligence, robotics, Internet of Things, 3D printing, genetic engineering, quantum computing, and many, many other technologies, ultimately leading to the creation of these new ecosystems. The first industrial revolution was a revolution. It gave rise to the invention of water and steam power. It led to the industrial transformation of our societies with trains and the mechanization of manufacturing. The second industrial revolution is when electricity and the assembly line led to mass production and to some extent automation. The third industrial revolution had everything to do with the rise of computers and the rise of robotics and manufacturing, the birth of the internet, and obviously significantly more automation. And here we are in the fourth wave, the rise of the anytime, anywhere digital ecosystems. We can obtain personalized goods and services delivered anytime, anywhere, or user experiences that transition seamlessly as we move from one digitized connected screen to the next. And now Accenture forecasts that the combination of a few of the technology standouts in Industry 4.0, they call it DARQ. It's DARQ, and it stands for Distributed Ledger Tech, or blockchain, artificial intelligence, extended reality, and quantum computing. And their convergence, they're stating, would ultimately enable companies to build these in-the-moment experiences that are going to help shape and transform entire supply chains and even industries. So just like there's 4 waves of the Industrial Revolution, we have waves in the evolution of AI. And now, while AI is an umbrella term that comprises a multitude of different technologies and applications, we're going to use it to define the collection of systems involved in simulation of human intelligence in machines or machine learning. The 3 waves define the evolution of machine learning from roughly around the 1950s to present. The first wave, which was 1950s to the 1990s, was rule-based, and the systems were good at reasoning, but they had no real ability to learn or to generalize. The second wave was statistical based, and so think deep learning and statistical big data approaches to AI. Good at learning or perceiving, but minimal ability to reason or to generalize. Think of things like speech-to-text translation or vision processing. And the third wave of AI, which is the era that we're in right now, the 2020 to 2030s, is contextual based. And contextual architectures and adaptation, also known as perception AI, are systems where they're good at perceiving, they're good at learning and reasoning, and are able to generalize with fewer data samples for training, and they can learn and function with less and less supervision. Think of things like smart speakers that are able to recognize what you say, or smart homes that can recognize and authenticate you. Think of digital marketing, where these tools are able to predict your behavior. It's a movement from ultimately machine learning into machine intelligence. At the intersection of the fourth industrial revolution with the third wave of AI, you get intelligent ecosystems. And so what is an intelligent ecosystem? Ultimately, they're heavily instrumented sensor networks, integrated across a mesh of digital, physical, and bio networks or biological networks. They're accessible, via natural user interfaces, think voice, to access ultimately these cognitive systems that can make real-time decisions at the sensor level. And these heavily instrumented environments produce insane amounts of data. Data that needs to be acquired, normalized, synthesized, fed into models where the systems can learn and take action based on insights. And when humans interface with sensing and thinking systems, identity becomes more critical than ever, especially as your identity traverses through multiple worlds and multiple extended realities. And the data that's necessary to wholly and successfully impersonate a human is pretty significant. Think about it. It's your behaviors, it's your genetics, it's your biochemistry, it's your appearance. All of this information, it's your hormones. All of this information is information that's used to authenticate or bio-authenticate a human. And yet there's these signals in today's data that indicate that this is precisely where attackers are starting to focus their efforts. The Verizon Data Breach Report was first published in 2008, and it's a staple in every cybersecurity person's arsenal. It contains de-identified raw metrics and analysis of all the security breaches and incidents that they handled. And we often use this to help define and design a cybersecurity capability because it actually contains real data from breaches, and it compares those breaches year after year. And as part of this presentation, I'm going to be giving links to the source materials, so you'll be able to download this absolutely brilliant piece of intelligence and read it on your own. But one of the things that I did is I extrapolated some of the current trends to correlate them to future technology predictions that we're going to discuss a little bit later. And so Verizon handled over 3,900 security data breaches and 157,000 security incidents across 16 industries in 4 world regions. And their data is classified based on attack types, threat actors, their motivations, affected industries. And this year's report, which came out this past April, has some really interesting findings. The attackers were financially motivated, more so than politically motivated, say like hacktivists. And by and large, the attackers are targeting victims based on the ability to monetize that event. The top adversaries were organized crime and nation-state affiliates. Attackers prefer short paths and are decreasingly attempting long, complex, multi-step attacks. Low-tech attacks are actually brilliant because they tend to fall below the radar of many detection systems and or their capabilities, and they cast off fewer digital artifacts. They're using phishing and stolen credentials to focus on systems like email and web servers, and they're targeting, this is really interesting, they're targeting information-rich industries such as finance, information services, healthcare, and the professional services industry. We're also starting to see an uptick in the focus on manufacturing companies and their systems. So what are the main signals, and what does this ultimately tell us? So in summary, here's the key signals. Industries are finance, healthcare, information services, and professional services. Increased focus on manufacturing. Organized crime is involved. They're financially motivated. They use social engineering and misconfigurations and identity-based attacks. They target identity systems, and they're targeting behavioral, personal, and historical data. And so what does that tell us? It says that attackers are targeting industries that collect and process massive amounts of highly personalized and processed data. Think about how much information the financial and healthcare industries have on you. Think about how much information companies have collected on you: video, audio, behavior information, preferences, buying habits, your friends, your social connections, your historical information, your current information, and their ability to predict future activities. These are also industries that are at the forefront of artificial intelligence, which means that they also, like I mentioned before, they have the predictive data about you. So why is all of this important? Because as we said, in an intelligent ecosystem, knowledge and intelligence are part of the DNA. The identity and the identity of things becomes more critical than ever. Because at the end of the day, attackers have figured out the ultimate prize, and the ability is to replicate you. Welcome to what the Future Today Institute calls the synthetic decade. The woman on this slide, her name is Shudu Graham, and she's a virtual influencer and is often described as the world's first virtual supermodel. There is controversy around her creator and the effect that these synthetic people are having on industries such as fashion modeling, media, and entertainment. For cybersecurity professionals, her lifelike features are a signal for a future more dangerous than our current generation of deepfakes. As we go through the upcoming trends, think about the type of data that attackers would need to harvest to create a similar version of a live person. Something, by the way, fashion models are doing today to both to protect their image and their identity and ultimately their brand. From digital twins to engineered DNA, there is an effort underway to design and create synthetic versions of life. Renowned futurist Amy Webb and her colleagues at the Future Today Institute annually produce this brilliant report called the 2020 Tech Trends Report. In 400 captivating pages, it presents one of the most comprehensive analyses of technology trends. And so what do they see? Everyone alive today is being scored. Remember, in an intelligent ecosystem, sensors capture everything. And so we are shedding data just by virtue of us being alive. Synthetic media, such as AI-generated synths, will have artificial lives and storylines that we follow and ultimately captivate our attention. Human-like virtual assistants will make our appointments and screen our calls and control homes and cars. Next generation network infrastructure will ultimately speed the adoption. We will synthesize everything from the food we eat to the feelings we experience. And so we're going to go ahead and use the 2020 Tech Trends Report as the source for the trends that we're going to be tracking and analyzing today. So this section is what I call knocking on the sky. This is where we will analyze a few key trends that I think predict will have a profound impact on the world of cybersecurity. So while there are 356 trends that the Future Today Institute has tracked, we're going to hone in on three. The first is AI recognition technologies, synthetic media and content, bio interfaces, and wearables. Now, these next few slides are data dense and purposefully so. They're standalone slides so that you can leverage or reference when creating strategies or looking at future trends. So to kick this off, let's look at the woman in this video. She is entirely synthetic, and she's one of Samsung's artificial neon humans. They've designed their neons to mimic real human appearance and emotions. And while these are still at the beginning phases, we are increasingly seeing more and more of these synthetic beings creeping into our daily lives. So first, let's break this down. We're going to cover the trends, examples of the patterns, the urgency with which we need to act, and the implications to cybersecurity. In the trends around AI and recognition technologies, we see a few patterns emerge. One I'd like to hone in on immediately is this concept called a digital twin. Digital twins are virtual representations or replicas of physical devices or biological entities used to run in simulations. Buildings, factories, cities, even a supply chain can have a digital twin. And this concept is revolutionizing things like manufacturing. Remember earlier when we spoke about the uptick in attacks on manufacturing firms, we can start to see some of the reasoning behind this. Attacks on digital twins provide you with the blueprint to attack or to target live systems. And that's because the digital twin needs to be a perfect replica of what's in production. And attacks against these predictive twins, because you can run a digital twin and you can run a predictive twin, yield significantly more information about the modeled systems and people. Another trend includes purpose-based digital assistants. As a security professional, you will both design security into and leverage digital assistants. Imagine a digital forensics assistant that can acquire forensics images and process a piece of information or piece of evidence. How about defense digital assistants that show you everything that's changed in an environment and that can ultimately impact your security or ask your permission to execute a proposed set of containment mechanisms? These are highly specialized assistants designed to remove the rote, repeatable activities of a security worker and allow humans to focus on activities that machines that really ultimately cannot be done by machines. However, these systems are anticipatory, and once they authenticate you, they can predict and service your needs based on a wide range of accessible data. These digital assistants will have extraordinary access to your personal and even healthcare information and will be a focus and target of attackers. One of the ways attackers may target these systems is to attempt to spoof your identity and fool these assistants. These digital assistants will have access to massive amounts of information and create these adaptive cognitive profiles to authenticate you. And in anticipation of this, attackers are now gathering and harvesting data to make these types of attacks possible. These trends have a high degree of certainty and immediate impact, which means security architects and designers must begin considerations for how to protect and defend their worlds in light of the immediacy of this trend. Synthetic media and content. So this is incredibly interesting. Creating synthetic media requires various types of AI technology, and designers are creating algorithms that use massive amounts of data to learn people. So people, voices, photos, movements, videos, all of the above, with the end result of creating an artificial or synthetic person. The Future Institute today indicates that voice clones, voice skin, unique gestures, photos, and interactive bots are all part of this ecosystem. And we've seen them in play. Digital synths are news anchors, sports reporters, even a synthetic version of David Beckham starred in a PSA about malaria. Some of the digital synths news reporters are writing their own content. And while there are broader issues with the impact these synthetic beings have on the workforce, the impacts on to cybersecurity simply cannot be ignored. Synthetic media requires a considerable amount of data, photos, videos, audio recordings, etc. And this data is being stolen right now. Social media data, significant data breaches provide massive amounts of information that can be used to synthesize you and be used in nefarious ways, such as stealing money from your bank account or leveraging the fact that you have administrative access to be able to get into a system. Biointerfaces and wearables. Our final trend of the day is the area of biointerfaces and wearables. And this is critically important in the areas of healthcare and what we'll call the mechanized workforce. This trend is where we see the fourth industrial revolution in full view. The biological, the physical, and the digital worlds all colliding. Biointerfaces act as mediating agents between cells, organs, muscles, entire bodies, and tech. And medical treatments, rehabilitation, or simply as an augmentation to a healthy body for a dangerous job are examples of where we would see a biointerface. And we see everything from these microscopic ingestible devices to biological tattoos that can focus or function as medical sensors. And one of the areas that I'd like to highlight is this concept called a cloud-based wireless body area network. So these wireless body area networks, or W-bands, transmit information from your wearable to a central hub, and then they relay that information to a medical team or a healthcare monitoring service. And we see this with the whole movement towards the aging in place industry or the increase in senior care homes. And so what are the cybersecurity implications? Well, healthcare is one of the most targeted industries in the cybersecurity world. Billions of devices with varying levels of security are deployed. A compromise of a wireless body area network provides attackers with massive amounts of biological information that can be fed into malicious artificial intelligence systems and used to create a cognitive synth or mimic, quite frankly, any level of biometric identity data or identity and access to any identity and access management system presented. And if these systems have decisioning capabilities, then an attacker can do far more damage by tampering with these connected life safety systems or providing false information that can harm the patient or lead to death. And with this power of foresight, we can begin to work on the designs necessary to protect and defend life. Over the past few years, afrofuturism has seen a resurgence in art, media, and entertainment. In technology and cybersecurity, we can employ afrofuturist themes and, quite frankly, frameworks to predict and forecast a future that we are charged to protect and defend. All cybersecurity professionals should be trained in futurism, and it is critical now, more than ever, that Black voices, Black vision, and Black foresight are part of this design. World-renowned sociologist and Afrofuturism social theorist Alondra Nelson writes, "A facet of Afrofuturism that should not get overshadowed is Black people's long-standing innovation or innovative and critical engagement with science and technology." And she's right. For never have we been closer to creating a real and lasting dystopia. But never have we had more opportunity to create a real and lasting utopia. Thank you, and all the very best.